Hello, everybody. Welcome to JPS Football's NFL preview. Division by division, we're doing the AFC South. So if you are a Titans, Colts, Jaguars, or Texans fan, you are in the right place. Or maybe you're a fantasy fan and you need to know about some of these players. I don't know. I don't care. Thanks for listening. So, Rich, let's start. Let's take the trash out first. The Texans. How bad is it going to be, man?
Everybody has to win one game, right?
No. No.
I mean...
Not necessarily.
The Browns and Lions never... They were able to not win for a full season. I'll put it to you this way. They have the best chance of going winless. I think they might very well go winless. My God, they're going to be so bad. And Tyrod Taylor was named the starter yesterday in Houston. Deshaun Watson is still held captive in the football hostel known as Houston. Bad situation over there all the way around. Still waiting on that whole saga.
Legal situation.
Which I don't care to really divulge in because we just don't know all the facts. Only the parties. So let's leave that to the hands of the court. See how it plays out. As far as the team goes, they're awful. Previous guy in charge, Bill O'Brien, left that place barren.
It was a train wreck. Though, like his whole tenure was just you're watching all this talent be put on a train to go right off a cliff, and like everybody knew it, and yet the organization let it happen.
Nick Caserio, who I have a high opinion of, is in control there now, but the problem is he has a lot to do. What I found kind of funny, I put it on one of our Instagram posts, was that Deshaun Watson, what they're asking for him, I guess when they decide that he could be traded, 3 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders. Who in the flying fuck is going to give that up? And I'm not shitting on Deshaun. He's a hell of a talent. But who the fuck is giving up that much? You're not going to be able to put a team around him if you give that up. That sounds like a Ricky Williams trade.
And not only that, until his name is cleared, it's a huge risk.
Or even worse, the Herschel Walker deal.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of that one.
Yeah, that one worked out good. But I must say, when you look at how they basically got damn near nothing for DeAndre Hopkins, they got a washed-up David Johnson, who's not even going to be the starter this year probably. There's going to be a committee there. There's just not much to say. They've lost their heart and soul in J.J. Watt last year. You know, he's a Cardinal now. They don't have anything to offer exciting, with the exception of maybe a late draft pick of Brandon Cooks. Looks like he might have a good fantasy year.
So that was my one thing is there anything to watch? Is there any pieces they can build around? Because obviously they're in a rebuild mode. So what is the one thing they could maybe clutch to and try and build around?
Try to get as many draft picks as you can for Deshaun Watson when he's tradable. But when you look at the team top to bottom, there is not much to feel that you can build around, not to mention that this team doesn't really have an identity. And it's hard to figure where you're building when you haven't established what your identity is. And I feel for Nick Caserio, you know.
It's hard to have an identity when your franchise quarterback is clearly ready to leave. Like the quarterback, like it or not, better or worse, tends to be the leader of the team.
I feel for Romeo Crennel, too, a coach that I respect, but he is in a tough situation. But as they say in Houston, it's always going to be fuck you, AJ Hinch. But I'm sorry, dude. I honestly, this might sound terrible. I'm going to say they go 0-17. I am not kidding.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think they'll pick up a win or two. Just the parity of the NFL. Some team's going to rest enough starters, or they'll have injuries, whatever. They'll steal one somewhere. The players seem to like Romeo enough to put their hearts out there. And don't forget, these guys are playing for their careers. Even if they're on a team that they know won't win shit, they do have to put good game tape out. But that's more than enough about Houston. Let's talk about another team that's going to be toward the bottom. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Maybe definitely not the same scenario, though. We can agree. There's a lot of upside and potential to what's going on up there in Jacksonville. What's your thoughts on how well they're going to do, how far they're going to take this rebuild in this year?
Well, I mean, losing the rookie who was very exciting to add to that backfield, Travis Etienne. I liked him a lot coming in. That sucks that he's going to be out for the year. But it's an opportunity for James Robinson to keep his fantasy status as a top 10 fantasy running back. Now, obviously, there's another rookie that's a pretty big deal. His name's Trevor Lawrence. The emergence of Trevor Lawrence led to them shipping out Gardner Minshew. They did bring in veteran receiver Marvin Jones. They already have an established receiving room with Laviska Shenault and also, oh boy, I want freeze mode, DJ Chark.
DJ Chark.
Yeah, so that's actually why I want freeze mode. I was thinking about the kiddos for a second.
Doing my best to erase it from my memory. Thank you, Nikki Estep, for that.
Yeah.
Snyder, just kidding. Just
Estep,
kidding. But
Snyder.
every time you... Never mind. Let me ask you a question. Gardner Minshew, we touched on it before. Was it a good move to ship him off?
I didn't like it because he was under team control and he wasn't making a lot of money. And we saw last year that the rookie Burrow in Cincinnati got hurt. Like, why not have a backup plan if the kid gets benched off bad performance or just gets hurt?
Or COVID.
Yeah. So now you send him to Philly. I don't like that move. I don't think that he needed to change addresses. He could have still been an asset to that team. Not to mention that in preparation, backup quarterbacks can be good, valuable assets to have. It's one of the most overlooked things in the NFL of a backup quarterback's value because they do a lot in the classroom, so to speak.
Yeah. You also got to mention this is Urban Meyer's first year coaching NFL football.
And now that the Tebow fiasco left, which ultimately my conclusion on that, I think they brought in Tebow to kind of take away some of the attention off the rookie. A lot of pressure coming in, being the number one overall pick in the draft. I do think that's part of the reason why Tebow was there. The other part, I think it was blind loyalty because Meyer wanted to help one of his guys. He's not in the picture. He wasn't going to be in the picture anyway. As far as offensively goes, I do like what they present on offense. I actually think that they're going to be a decent team on offense. But unfortunately, I believe on the defensive side of the ball, they haven't improved nearly enough to be a true factor. I'm going to give them one more than I feel comfortable with just because I kind of do believe in this Lawrence kid and I like the offensive setup. I'm going to go 6-11. A 5-game improvement from the 1-15 season a year earlier.
I respectfully am going to disagree with you on that. I don't see the Jaguars winning more than 5 games. So we're only off by 1, but it kind of makes a difference in the perception of the team.
I mean, they do play the Texans twice.
And to me, that's a game where Houston might avoid the 0-17 all-time losers record. Because Jacksonville, they look damn good against Dallas's backups. But,
week 1, they do play the Texans. It
should tell you a lot about the fate of both of those teams surviving the bottom of the AFC South. Let's move it along to a team that was widely regarded to be a favorite for contention in the AFC until, okay, let's not exaggerate. They weren't widely. Do you buy in Carson Wentz and the Colts? Let's put it bluntly. Do you think Carson Wentz pushes them to the next level, yes or no?
If he could ever stay healthy, possibly. I liked the move initially because it reunited him with Frank Reich, who he played his best football under when he was the OC with Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Wherever you have Wentz, it seems like Foles is not far because there has been nonstop rumors that somehow they're going to bring in Nick Foles. So Reich could have both his guys together in Indy. Andrew Luck continues to enjoy his money and just laugh at that organization.
Lucky man.
Yes. Marlon Mack lost his starting job last year. Jonathan Taylor is projected to be a fantasy boss this year. T.Y. Hilton has a neck injury. I don't believe it to be career-threatening, but they want to take their time with that. Defensively, I do see them as low-key good, which I think is going to keep them in more games than not. Last year, with an aging Phillip Rivers, they did give Buffalo a little bit of a scare, particularly in the going into the fourth quarter. That was still a game where Indy could have stole it. Then Buffalo got their bearings and showed that they were the better team. I don't think Indy is bad, but I don't think they're really that good. I think they literally are the definition of in the middle now, with the exception of getting a tie. Nobody goes 500 anymore with the 17th game. I'm going to have Indy go 8-9. I think that they will get swept by the Tennessee Titans, and I do believe that Jacksonville might give them a loss. This might sound a little crazy, possibly 2.
Wow. Okay. So you brought up, I think, our unanimous favorite here and most people's, the Tennessee Titans. They look to be the undisputed leaders of the South now that Wentz has already proven himself to be still made of glass. What's their ceiling? Because I personally, I'm going to just put it right out there. I really like them. I think they're really good. I think people are sleeping on that Julio Jones pick. I know we talked about it in the offseason when it happened. People assume his career is done because of reduced production the past couple of years, but I think he's in the perfect setup to have a renaissance and push them to the next level. What are your thoughts?
I like them on offense. My one issue, I'll get the negative out first, then I'll talk about the good stuff. My negative is, as much as I like them on offense, I am not sold on them on defense. Mainly, I mean, they did pick up Bud Dupree. He could help. But I am not endeared with them on the other side of the football on defense. That can essentially take Derrick Henry out of certain games. But now, talking about Derrick Henry and that offense, I like them because I feel that Henry doesn't have to do as much now on that side of the ball. And I think that it's a perfect setup for Ryan Tannehill because I think Ryan Tannehill is one of the most underrated quarterbacks that starts week in, week out in the NFL. Not too many people would dare put him in the superstar conversation, but I think he is the definition of consistency. And you're bringing in Julio now, opposite A.J. Brown. Julio becomes your number 2 receiver who's going to eat well. Anthony Fursker, I could see him having a quietly good fantasy year at tight end. And Derrick Henry is good for 1,500 yards no matter how you cut it. Like I said, from a physicality level and some of the teams that I do think they might have to run into in the playoffs, I think that could be their Waterloo. But I still think this team is safe to win in that division too. You got to factor that in. I'm going to give them a 11-6, but I think it's going to be a little soft when I say 11-6 based on some of the teams in that division. I mean, they can conceivably go undefeated in that division, which would be half their wins.
But, I mean, if they live up to their talent, and let's say Indianapolis lives down to our worst predictions, there's no reason they shouldn't. And if they can't sweep a team like the Texans and even the Jaguars, as much upside as that team may have to develop, Titans aren't young. They are an established team. This is their year.
And the Titans have had their number for quite some time.
They have, but so my thing is this: I think their window is getting smaller. I think if they don't make it happen in this next year or two, it's time to reboot. Because for me, Tannehill, he's got a little too much Cousins in him. He's very efficient, but I don't necessarily see him as a game-breaking quarterback. He doesn't always make that play. Now, he's got more athletic upside. I have seen him do some of it. My fear is just they get so wrapped into that we can run the ball and play action that when you know they got to pass it, traditionally they've been shut down a little bit easier than other teams.
I will say this, with the addition of Julio, in today's NFL, because it's such a pass-happy league, a lot of times now, as opposed to old-school football thinking, the pass actually opens up the run as opposed to the run opening up the pass. And I believe that in this case, that might happen because I'm just going to make a quick analogy or assessment. I remember when the New England Patriots opened up the season a few years back in Gillette against Alex Smith's Chiefs. This is when Patrick Mahomes sat. The big thing on Alex Smith is very similar to Ryan Tannehill, game manager, athletic enough, but not super athletic. Not sold if you take it to the next level, so to speak. At any rate, in that particular game, Ryan Tannehill lit it up in that Kansas City offense. Alex Smith lit it up in that Kansas City offense the same way that we see Mahomes do it every week. The point I'm making is with the weapons that Tannehill has, he can have those weeks where he mimics the upper echelon guys. But to your point, if they do find a way to become too predictable, and if their defense isn't showing up, which could happen week to week, certain weeks, Tannehill could suffer. I do have a higher opinion of Tannehill than I ever did of Alex Smith. And Alex Smith won a lot of games in terms of winning percentage. So Let's see what happens here. But I'm going to give them the division solely based on the fact that there's not really any imminent threat to them. But I do think that they could fall possibly into the pretender role because of the fact that I'm not convinced that they're better than the Buffaloes, believe it or not, than the New Englands. I don't think they're necessarily better than the Ravens or the Browns, and obviously the Chiefs.
You got a lot of competition on the upper upper echelon of the AFC.
The AFC's tough. I did mention New England. That might draw a few eyebrows. I'll get to them when we get to the East, but I have a little bit of faith in what they're doing now, especially with getting rid of Cam Newton. We'll touch on them later.
Alrighty. Well, that'll wrap for AFC South. Thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed this, please give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you socialize on the interwebs. Please follow us there. And if you enjoyed this, check out our other division previews. They should all be released before Week 1 starts. I mean, actual Week 1, not my guys' game against Tampa. Thanks for listening. See you next time.